Hi everyone, Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden, and I'm joined here by Pastor Scott, who is the founder, CEO, and president of Matthew's Hope, as well as Ralph DeShulo, who is the owner of Beacon Mortgage right here in Winter Garden. So,
Yeah, she did good.
Yeah,
I did great.
You nailed the
Holy
name.
cow. Been Ralph for years. I still don't use his last name.
I'll probably never use it again.
It's
but
Ralph.
that's fine.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Ralph is, forget. I can't
Right.
tell you anymore.
Friends
You know.
only use the first
Yeah.
name. So Ralph, how were you introduced to Matthew's Hope?
I think it was through one of the chamber events, I think, years ago. And I got to meet Scott at one of the events. We started talking about the significance of homelessness here in Winter Garden, which at the time really wasn't, you didn't really know about it. You didn't really see it. And Scott, we talked about, how big it was growing here in Winter Garden compared to the rest of the country. And that, things were happening that were in place, rents going up that were causing people to, being kicked out of their homes. It wasn't your typical homeless person. It was your 9-to-5 person that was all of a sudden their rent went from 1,100 to 2,200 in literally 2 years. And now they just couldn't afford it. And they had nowhere else to go. And now they're living in the street.
Do you think the community is aware of the crisis?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I've talked to many people, and I bring it up in some of my networking groups, and I always say, do me a favor, when you're driving down 50, look in the woods. Look when you see the shopping cart there. If
Yeah.
you look in there, there's a family in there. Not one family, but groups of families.
Several families?
Yes.
Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Ralph nailed it. I mean, the reality of it is you would think after, we've been here 14 years, kind of from the mountaintops yelling, hey, everybody better start paying attention. I think that, if you just see something on TV, you go, gosh, that's awful. That's really too bad. And that's all thought you give to it.
Yep.
Once you make eye contact, it changes everything. And I think that Matthew's Hope is trying to get people to give eye contact to what's happening really right under their nose. And I think that with the economy being what it is, and coming out of this pandemic and the challenges it created, that Ralph is spot on. We're seeing more and more everyday person being driven to the streets. I'm also seeing a lot of people that have worked their way out of homelessness being put back on the streets because, again, the rents raised so dramatically.
Right.
Yeah.
Ralph, do you think Matthew's Hope has a positive or negative impact on home values? You're in the mortgage business, so.
Well, I think Matthew's Hope's done a great job here in Winter Garden, getting the word out, and doing what they can for what's happening here. I think one of the things that we've talked about is from a funding standpoint, being able to handle the onslaught of what's happening here. It's a definite positive impact because more and more people. I don't think anybody knew about it 7, 8, 10 years ago.
Right.
Now it's still a small portion, but it's a bigger portion than when it was. And sometimes people don't want to think about it because they want to pretend it's not there.
Right.
And we've seen it in other cities, like, oh no, that's not my problem, that's somebody else's. And I've talked about, and I've tried to say, hey, listen, it's here, it's
Right.
real. And like Scott just mentioned, when you look at somebody in the face and you realize they're a 9-to-5 person with a kid that might be in high school or middle school or whatever, and they're having to send that kid to school as a homeless family, it's a reality check.
Could you imagine if Matthew's Hope wasn't here? What do you think it would look like?
Oh, I think we would be. I mean, it would be a lot worse than it is now, than it already is. I think they've done a great job of trying to help who's here, and whether it be the true homeless person that really fell off the wagon or whatever it might be, to that 9-to-5 person that just needs a hand up. The one thing I love that they don't do is they have Matthew Bucks. I think that's correct. Is that
Pastor Bucks, yeah.
Pastor Bucks. Yeah, sorry. But it's a hand up, not a handout. So that these people have to come in there and do their work. I mean, if you look at the store that we're sitting in right now, people they've learned a skill, and I've seen many of your graduates that have learned skills, and they've gone back into society to help. And the best thing is I see these people now giving back because they've been there and they know what it's like, so they can talk to those people and they can say, hey, listen, I was living behind the Walmart.
Been in that situation.
Yeah, and they can connect better. Me, when I try to connect with somebody, I try to, but they're looking at me going, yeah, you've never been there.
Right.
And when somebody's been there, it makes it a better connection.
It's a huge impact, like snowball effect.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, Ralph, a comment you made a second ago where you said, you mentioned that everyday 9-to-5er type person, and then the other guy Okay, and what's interesting is to know is a lot of times that everyday 9-to-5er has become the other guy.
Yep.
They've self-medicated often. They've given up. I mean, I've watched so many marriages fail over financial things,
Yeah.
and so I see men that have lost their, men are more apt to be defined by their careers. When you meet someone, especially men, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right?
First thing
Typical
you do.
question.
Yes.
And that's a tough, it's a tough place to be when you don't have anything you do
Right.
anymore. And where a lot of times when I see the single moms, the women, they will cry and they may throw a fit, but next day it's like, what do we got to do?
Right.
Where often the men almost look like they've seen a horrible car accident and they're in shock, and we're trying to figure out where that restart button is. So
you talked about hiding in plain sight.
yeah.
And what you guys are doing with the guests, haircuts, showers, all of that's helping them move forward.
Sometimes I feel like we've almost done too good a job.
Because people don't see the crisis.
They don't see the crisis because we've done I've got a fantastic staff of people that work with me, and a base of support in West Orange County that most people don't hope to have. But I think sometimes, I've jokingly and kind of not jokingly said, hey, why don't we close down for a couple weeks? Let them get a real feel of things. And it sounds harsh, but you're going like, what the hell's it going to take to get, our commissioners and our leadership and our community to understand what's happening right under their nose. We do all this growth, which is, look, you can't stop development and growth. And I got to say that though we serve well outside of Winter Garden, but out of the 15 municipalities that we now serve, Winter Garden has probably done the best job in how they've grown. The challenge is nobody's really looking at the ripple effect.
Yep.
I always say everything we do at Matthews Hope, we know when we drop the stone it's going to splash, but what's that ripple effect going to be?
Right.
And I think that we fail as a society, and we fail in leadership often of saying, when we make this decision to add this many more homes off this particular road, what does that mean? When we wipe out those woods, it's funny that how often in the news, I mean, almost weekly now, we hear of a bear sighting or a coyote. Yeah. I see on our local Facebook pages, people seeing a coyote or a fox. And I'm often saying, well, if you hang on long enough, you're going to see a homeless man, woman, or child come out also, because that has become the natural habitat per se.
Right.
And so when you do this development, you have to look at it. Well, what are we displacing? What effect is it going to have on our traffic, on our homeless population, on our economy, on our economics, on our atmosphere? What's it going to do? And I think often we just don't do that. And I think it's important that we start doing that.
Right. So today is Giving Tuesday. Are the funds rolling in, or is it difficult to get funds to help with all of the services that you guys have?
It's difficult to say what kind of day we're going to have. I mean, when Giving Tuesday came up a few years ago, I kind of laughed at it because I said to myself, well, the reality of it is we need Giving 365. Okay?
I love that.
But hey, if Tuesday makes you feel a lot more like opening your wallet, by God, let's do it. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a cynic, but often I look at these things and go, that's what it took.
Up with it? Yeah.
But it comes after we've had Black Friday, we've had Cyber Saturday, and so you got to do for yourself. You got to take care of your things for Christmas and what have you. Now you have an opportunity to maybe help somebody else and look out for somebody else beside yourself. So if it brings that kind of attention to us, Lord knows we need the help. And sometimes I almost feel like, remember we used to watch the Jerry Lewis telethons.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I feel like I'm in the never-ending Jerry Lewis. What's that other movie Bill Murray was in? Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
I live in Groundhog Day fundraising. And, I laugh about it, but it's I tell you the
real.
truth,
Really?
14 years of this, it wears you down because, you start to feel like a broken record and like, well, we've helped them before. Well, all I can tell you is that, I've mentioned it prior episodes that, we have, our donor base is larger than it's ever been. The people are out there supporting us. The challenge has been that our average donation prior to the pandemic is half of what it used to be. We've had some of our larger donors that say, hey, Scott, we're not abandoning you, but we did not have the year we've had in the past, and though you're going to get a check from us, it's going to be a bit lower than years past. Well, then you've put that we grew by 500% during the pandemic.
Wow.
And now we're in this economy where everything is becoming more expensive. The math just doesn't work. And so, whether it's Giving Tuesday or whatever, we need the help.
Ralph, there's so many organizations out there. Why do you choose to put your efforts into Matthew's Hope? What's your passion behind it?
My passion is the kids. When I stand up and ask for donations, I ask the same question all the time. I said, when you were 8, 9 years old or 6 years old and you woke up for Christmas, was there a present under the tree? And everybody, they always joke and they always say, that's so wrong for you to say that because I feel so guilty that I got to give you something. I said, hey, you know what?
Whatever
I see
works.
these kids. I said, adults make decisions that put them in that position. If you're not born, like I was blessed to be born into a family that, had a roof over my head, meal every day and everything else, I was blessed to be in that family. There's so many kids out there that I see that never had that chance to make that decision, that are 4, 5, 6 years old. I see them in the parking lots. I see them in the woods that are just, I look at them, I say, wow, that kid is going to have a rough life. How do we break that cycle?
Right.
What do we have to do? And that's my passion. I've got 2 little kids, and I look at them saying, hey, and I'm trying to get them to understand how lucky they are and how blessed they are, and what do they got to do to give back.
Mm-hmm.
What's fascinating, too, is that a lot of these kids don't even know they're homeless.
Yeah, they don't know about it.
I used to say, for years, people aren't born homeless. And I can't say that anymore.
Nope.
Over the last 4 or 5 years, the number of infants that come into our office is mind-boggling. And trying to, we do things like our Christmas carnival and stuff, with the whole idea is trying to bring dignity back to a family that has lost all dignity.
Yep.
And well-meaning people have often helped destroy that dignity. I told someone the other day, I said, you want to destroy a man, a father, you let him watch his children open gifts that he has no idea what's in the box that came from someone else.
Let's talk about that, Scott, because that hits me in the heart, because that's kind of how we established our friendship and relationship, and I've learned more about that because I thought, just give the family all of these things and it's fine in D&D. So let's talk more about the toy drive that you guys are doing, and Ralph, that you're a huge part of in the Christmas Carnival, and why it's important. People don't have to do it this way, but why it's important to do it this way, because in our Facebook groups, we see often, we're getting toys, we're adopting a family. Why is it important for us as individuals who are outside of Matthew's Hope, wanting to help, but not knowing the difference of what you guys are doing, how the process is for you guys, and how the others are doing it, how I used to do it?
Yeah, I think, and I've always got to walk carefully.
Because let's partner together, right?
Yeah, I got to walk carefully through this because
pretend you're talking to me
we did, yeah.
Like we did, exactly.
I don't want to offend anybody, but let me just put some hard truths out there.
Yeah.
Okay, and part of this is because, having been homeless as a kid, and in particular, I was homeless for a while as an adult too, but as a kid, that's where so much of this stuff really struck me. About Santa Claus and these type of things happening. And what I see is that, you have several different people in a community that are doing things. Some will have an angel tree. You'll have ones that say, adopt a family. Adopt a family is a great one. And here's why I struggle with that, because it sounds wonderful on the surface.
Right.
But let's say, Tracy, you're a doctor, and Ralph, you're Joe, working at the gas station, okay? And you both got the heart to adopt a family, and your families live next door to each other. And you're doing so well. You just do this amazing Christmas. And Ralph did an amazing Christmas also based on what he could do. In fact, he probably gave more
Right.
with he had less.
Yeah.
But what the kids saw was the neighbor's kid. Why does Santa love them so much? And I got this. The other thing is that I used to spend a lot of time in East Winter Garden early in my ministry 20 years ago, and I can remember I used to even knock on doors and ask people if they could use some help for Christmas. And I'd watch people crack the door open just a little bit and poke their head out, and I'd look over their shoulder and I'd see Christmas that my kids never had, even when I had a really healthy income years ago. And nobody was saying to me, I'm doing great, but my neighbor could sure use some help. Okay? And so I said, well, how do we level that playing field? And the way we felt and still feel it can be done is we started this Christmas carnival and then asked partners, community partners like Ralph, help us collect those toys and things for the kids. And then what we'll do is we'll have a day that the kids can come out and we used to window shop when I was a kid. Remember when stores used to have stuff?
Yep.
Okay, and you go and you sit there and your parents would kind of try to listen to what you say and they try to figure out what that one gift.
Yeah.
Hear what I just said? That one gift that you were going to get. Oh, he wants a train set. That's what he's getting. Okay. Well, what happens is they come on and we ask a bunch of businesses to have like a little booth, a little tabletop set up with some cheesy carnival game while the kids are waiting for Santa to arrive. And now Santa and Mrs. Claus arrive on the Winter Garden fire truck, which the kids absolutely love.
They
They
do.
go nuts when they see
go
that.
wild.
And then they go inside our building and there's rows and rows there's a maze of toys.
And where do those toys come from?
And those toys were all donated by the community.
Okay.
And then what happens is the kids are going through this line to see Santa Claus. And while they're waiting to see Santa, they're seeing all this stuff. And all of a sudden they're like, Mommy, I always wanted one of these. And so I have an elf that's writing that down, okay, and following the family. And then the little girl picks up and, Mom, look at look at these earrings. I hope Santa brings me those earrings. And we sit there, we write that down. And then as they get up to Santa, now they sit there with Mr. and Mrs. Claus and they tell what they want. We're still writing that down, and when it's all done, we give the list to the parents and we say, come back in 2 days. And we're going to let you shop for this. We're going to give you a budget, and you're going to shop for presents so that you have the dignity of giving the Christmas to your children. We'll give you the paper and the tape, and you wrap your gifts yourself. And it's amazing. Couple things happen. One is less people are taken advantage of. Because I hate to say it, people will take advantage.
Sure.
But this way it kind of levels the field. If a parent on their budget, we start out with 100 points or $100 per child. And then if they want to work more, we'll let them work for more points. But
Okay.
they start with that. If they want to get 10 $10 gifts, great. If they want to do one $100 gift, that's fine too. But two things happen. One is, again, the parent had the dignity of giving it to their kids, and the child got what he wanted because everybody was listening.
Yep.
How many times you hope you caught that one or two things your kids said to you throughout the
Right.
year?
Right.
They've been telling you all along, but you're not, and all of a sudden it's like, what do you want? What did little Ralph want? God, I don't, And if you're lucky, you have a spouse or significant other that was paying attention, and on you go. But so the kid ends up getting what he wants. But the second thing is the parents got to do this, and we invite the entire community in. So there's people that are homeless. There are people that are just in need, and there's other people that have no need at all. But they come out and enjoy the day. Nobody knows who is who. We identify the homeless folks that we can do other things for. But all those families in need, I think last year we satisfied 67 families that we did last
great.
year, if I recall right, that had a nice Christmas. There wasn't one or two items. They had a nice Christmas.
That's awesome.
And we saw a lot of smiling, and I can't tell you how many parents with tears in their eyes thanked us and said this was so much better than someone hanging us a bag of something or what have you. So
if we can all just
again,
come
don't want to take
together
shots.
and-
I want to be very cautious, but we've proven it works, and it's a fun thing for the community to do together rather than doing 14 different things.
Right. So Ralph, I know it's important for you. Why are you so excited for this toy drive, and what is your part in it?
Well, going back to what Scott said, I'm going to age myself here for a minute. We used to have the Sears catalog. and we get the Sears catalog out and fold back the pages what we wanted or whatever. And it was funny because I got one the other day from a local store here, and it was just a very small one. I gave it to my wife going, all right, give it to the kids and tell them to pick out one thing. And my kids looked at me like, I'm like, Sears catalog, and they did not understand.
That's how we did it.
Yeah.
You rabbit-eared the catalog and hope that, got to make sure your parents saw it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, true.
So, like I mentioned before, what my passion is when these kids are waking up on Christmas morning, what is their Christmas like? What is their Thanksgiving like?
Yeah.
It's nothing like anybody can imagine. And, my passion is to educate this community. And when I go to my business meetings, I get up, and for the next month, they all know what I'm going to be saying. And I talk about the same thing. Hey, we're having this event, we're having this drive. Here's what we want, and here's why. And that's the biggest thing is, I tell people why.
That's great.
If you don't tell them the why,
Educating
you can't just say, hey, bring a toy and I'm going to have some, drinks and some food.
Right.
Okay, they don't get it. I want them to have the understanding. And when then people come to my event, people are standing around. They're like, first thing they always ask is, well, where are the toys going? Like, they're staying right here local. They go into the people that you're driving past every day that you don't even realize that you might see in the Publix parking lot standing there trying to get a sandwich or whatever. But those kids are the kids that we're trying to keep it local here.
Right.
It's a cool way of doing it.
Scott, is there funds to put on this carnival?
Well,
and where are they coming from?
Again, we're looking for sponsorships for that as well.
Okay.
We almost didn't do it this year, and because of the fact that from a financial standpoint, trying to figure out how do we do everything else that we've been doing the last couple of years and still do this. And number one, my staff said absolutely not. We will not cancel it. And number two, we said, well, we're a faith organization. We're going to put our faith in God that we could pull this off and put the word out and do all we can. Do what we can, not what we can't. Because the other thing a lot of people don't realize, we do Christmas for the adults as well. To wear, now typically for them, and we're going to try to get beanie hats and gloves and warm weather type things and hand warmers and what have you. But we have them see Santa too. And what's very cool is when they sit on Santa's lap, the adult does, and suddenly goes back to that time of innocence. I can't tell you how many men and women, but the men I think surprise me more than anything else, how often you'll see a tear go down their face. And they just remembered that simpler time when they never, this idea of this life they live now wasn't even part of the process. Yeah. And so, it's a lot to take on. I mean, right now, we're seeing a few hundred people a week at Matthews Hope, and we have something like in Orange County, we have something like over 1,000 in our rotation. In Brevard County, we've already got 800 in our rotation. It's a lot of people to try to help and care for and try to move forward in some way or another. So a lot's going to be happening at Matthews Hope. We ask, as we always do, people always ask, what's your biggest need? No one ever likes to hear the word money. But the truth is it takes a lot of money to do what we do. We go through, as it is, non-holiday. Each location is going through roughly 15,000 plus in raw resources each time we open.
Wow.
So twice a week in both locations. That adds up quick. And that's not counting the overhead, the insurance, that we pay a huge insurance and employees and vans and buses and everything else that we have to do. And so, we have to put the ask out there.
Right.
I still feel that if we don't, they're not going to like what it looks like when we're gone. But also the other side of it is I come from a biblical standpoint. I don't hide that. There's no such thing as they'll never be with us. In fact, it says they'll always be with us. But it also says help those that can't help themselves. And when you're talking about kids in particular, but even when you're talking about some of our adults now, right now we're dealing with more men and women that are physically and mentally disabled. These were people that had a caregiver that passed away. A lot of these kids didn't live past their 30s. And modern medicine has them living the same long lives as everybody else, but their caregiver dies when they're like 30 years old. We're seeing a ton of seniors that most of them have a pension, but that pension wasn't designed for this economy. And so they're living in their cars and stuff. And so, there's no place, there's nothing for them. So our biggest goal is keep them safe, keep them full with food, and at Christmas time, make sure they got warm blankets and things like that, because, one more thing we don't often talk about is we're going into a time of year that here in Central Florida, we will lose about 30 people a year to exposure.
Yep.
And people don't think
Florida.
of that because it's Florida.
They have no idea. People are dying from exposure in Florida. So we're going to do our best, because the truth is, I get a phone call every day. There's no place for me to refer them to. There's no place designed for seniors, for people with disabilities. These are things that we want to try to address. But again, it takes time, talents, and treasures to do that. And if it's as far as me and my house, we're going to continue to fight the fight and see what we can do. But we need the community to be a part of this. We can't do it by ourselves.
And speaking of toys and donating, is there a specific yes or no toy that people should be thinking about buying? Because some of these families live in the woods. So is there anything specific that people should stay away from, or maybe we should get more of?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is Barbie never goes out of style.
Especially not now.
Not now. Yeah, right now. I think Barbie's going to have a great year this year.
She is having a great year.
She's having a
this
great
year.
year this year. But
Maybe we should hit up Barbie.
I mean, little girls still love dolls, and stuff that will never go away. I think as far as things that not to do, it's kind of tough that we can't really, who didn't like the Red Ryder BB gun, but we live in a different time now.
Yeah.
So there's some things that, we'll stay away from. But the truth is that most things, balls of any kind, boys love balls of any kind.
Yeah.
Whether it's football, basketball.
Right.
But the same thing is, we also live in a different world. That a lot of these girls, love the ball too. They're athletic. So, I think the toughest thing we have is the older kids.
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up. Yep.
Where it gets really tough.
Yeah.
So we mostly have done like gift cards.
Okay.
And then what we'll try to do is when they're coming through, listen to them and ask them, what are they looking for? And then we go out and buy it, because to buy it ahead of time, it's not the same as buying those toys.
Sure.
So that's a big one, because once they get past about 11 or 12, it gets really hard.
Right.
Well, I tell all my friends and everybody, 2 things to avoid: battery operated and electronics.
Yeah.
And I always get a
Good.
ton for the kids, the babies. I never get that, like you said, 11 to 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Because that gap in there, and there's we're giving these 15, 16-year-old boys a G.I. Joe or whatever.
Right.
Boys love them, but like you mentioned, any of the sports things, because a lot of these kids don't have that opportunity. Their parents cannot afford to put them in any kind of sports. So if they get a soccer ball or basketball or something where they can just go out back in the field,
Yeah.
and you see they light up. I mean, I go to Veterans Park and you see some kids out there that I can almost tell you they're homeless, but they're out there kicking the soccer ball around with 5-year-old shoes on.
Right.
That I know they're not playing with cleats, and they're having a blast.
So, Ralph, we were talking earlier about kids going to school and maybe their clothes are too small. Would clothes for like teenagers be a good option?
It would almost be better.
Gift cards.
The gift cards.
Like a gift card
And
to
then we
Nike
can go
or
out,
something.
even like with some of the
Okay.
baby stuff. A lot of times, the real little stuff.
Sure.
If we have gift cards, then we will send somebody out to go shop for those specific items.
Gotcha. So
So-
after you've had the child, their age, and all of that stuff, then
That's why
it's-
we give us that 2 days
Yeah.
before we have the parents come back. It's like, okay, we got to do some heavy duty shopping over the next couple of days.
Right. So the season of giving is coming upon us. What can we do as a community for the rest of the year? What are the needs that you specifically have? I know there's needs all the time, but we talked a little bit about the toys.
Yeah.
If you're a business or even a club or church, you can come out and have a booth at the Christmas Carnival. What are other things?
Yeah, I mean, there's the businesses, clubs, churches we invite them to come out and have a booth and help us with that. That's big. But, something else that a lot of people don't realize happens this time of year. During the week of Thanksgiving, most businesses close down Thursday and Friday. So what happens is some of that population that we serve, you just eliminate 2 days of their work week.
Yeah.
Christmas, people shut down. You've eliminated work days for them. And so what happens is our food, clothing, and hygiene pantries take a beating also, because the need becomes greater. And, you know, I'm sure they're thankful for the day off.
Right.
But then they're in panic mode shortly after that, because all of a sudden their paycheck is going to be 2 days short of what it was before. And in a lot of jobs they're working, they aren't getting holiday pay and things like that. They just aren't. And it makes it tough. So people are sometimes surprised that, we close down Christmas Eve through the first day of the year. Because I always say that everybody and their mother wants to feed a homeless person during that time. And so I tell my team, go home and recharge, and we'll be back for the next 51 weeks. However, that time, as soon as that holiday is over, we're going to get hit real hard again.
Okay.
Every kind of need. Or parents that tried to take care of things their own, maybe they didn't get the help through us, so we found out after the holidays. They've spent that money to give their kids Christmas, and now they're in trouble because now they can't feed them.
Right.
So
Well,
it's never ending.
That was a lot, and I'm excited for the season to come, that we can come together as a community to get some toys, enjoy the Christmas carnival, help people in the community, help the kids. Thank you, Ralph, for joining us.
Anytime.
Thank you all for joining us. If you need a place to shop, we are in the Matthews Hope Chest Boutique, so come. We have many items that the guests of Matthews Hope have made. There's lots of unique gifts, so if there's somebody on your wish list and you have no idea what to get them, or they say they need nothing, this is a good place for that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys, and we'll
Thanks,
see you
Ralph.
next time.
Anytime.